Welcome to the City Council Workshop for Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. We have a time for citizens to address the council regarding any item of city business that is not on tonight's agenda. Do we have anybody? Okay, move on to general items. We have the appointment of Paul Tomei to the City County Planning Board for a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2027. Kurt, would you like to introduce Mr. Tomei? As if he needs any.
Before you have Paul Tomei, recently moved back into the city limits. And a few of the people on planning board convinced him to put his name in the hat to be a member of the city side of City County Planning Board. So with that, Paul Tomei.
I don't know what I can tell you. I lived around here close to 50 years in town and out in the country, and owned a business for 25 years here in town. And Richard asked me if I would be interested in doing it, so I said yes. So, I appreciate it.
That works.
Thanks.
Thank you. Moving on to executive review, we have a couple of fire resolutions. One for the Airport Authority and one for Rural Fire District 7. Would you like to say anything, Chief?
Good evening. The Airport Authority didn't change. It's the contract is 6,620.68. That one didn't change. And in 24, we didn't respond to any calls at the airport. And so far in 25, we haven't responded to the airport at all. So that one was fair. Fire District 7, and that maybe Brittany can tell, or maybe Kelly can tell us, but for as long as I've been paying attention to the district contracts, we've only been able to get 140,000 for District 7 because the board wasn't full. And now the board is full, so we were able to collect the full 216, 438.65 this year. So long as we keep that board, we'll be able to continue to collect that. I'm going to meet with Molt Fire District tonight to talk to them about taking, like I've talked to you guys before, about taking part of their district over. It just makes it cleaner. And then in the future, we're probably I talked to the Blue Creek Fire Chief too, because once you get up into the Metzger Road and Spring Creek Road and stuff up there, you got to have a map to tell what district you're in. I think we can get with the county and we can make those boundaries more square. It only makes sense. There's no reason that fire that we had, the combined fire, that wasn't our fire. That was Blue Creek's fire. There's no reason for Blue Creek to come clear down to South Billings Boulevard and around, or else up over the top and come into that fire. It's a lot better for us to get, easier for us to get to it. And there's parts of our district that are closer to Blue Creek that we can work with the county and square these districts up a little bit. So we'll be doing that. So once we meet with Molt tonight and see if they're in favor of, we would take Homewood Park and basically come right across the rims to the north of Lip, come right across the Canyon Creek Road, and everything south would be Laurel. Everything north of that would be Molt. They may not want that. My rebuttal to them is, if you don't do it, we're not obligated to respond to that. If we're available, we will respond. But if we're on a car wreck or we're on a house fire in the city of Laurel or one of these other districts, it's a mutual aid request and we'll go if we can. If it's our district, of course, we're gonna respond. The other thing I'm gonna bring up to them is probably gonna start billing. If we continue to respond to that area and it's not our area, we're gonna bill. We gotta be able to recoup some of our costs that we're utilizing to go up and assist. It's not that we don't want to help, but it's costing the city and it's costing the fire districts money to go assist, and it's not a true mutual aid, right? If we go to CHS, they may not mutual aid to us, but they send us to fire school and that doesn't cost the city anything. They let us come to the refinery and do a bunch of training. It doesn't cost anything. So that's kind of the mutual aid there. And if we get something big in the city, CHS will mutual aid to us. But if we need a ladder truck, they'll mutual aid their ladder to us. But going north, there's not really much of a mutual aid. So we're going to try to square up the districts a little bit. 7 and Lufsa are on board to merge, but talking to the county, it's best to wait. And if Molt says yes, then we can merge the new part from Molt into the 7 and Lufsa. And then it'll be the Lufsa Fire Service area. So, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Be careful what you wish for with that Homewood Park area. Yeah, I guess you do. You go anyways, but woof.
The problem with that is I would rather get the call first, then we have a fighting chance of getting there. The way it works right now, the call goes to Stillwater County. Stillwater County sends it to the comm center, and then the comm center calls us. Well, that could be up to 40 minutes, and you don't have a fighting chance of saving anything if we get the call first, then we have a little bit of a chance of hopefully saving it. So.
You two want to talk about your little trip last week? Any?
Yeah, we can. We went down to New Orleans and did the final sign off on the fire truck. It will be here probably around 10 o'clock Thursday morning. It's en route right now. It's in Kansas. Sometime, he's got to follow DOT regulations, so sometime Thursday morning to midday, it'll be here. We planned it. We'll have to do some pretty in-depth training with the truck. It's a lot bigger. It's about a foot wider than our Squad 5. When I drove it down there on those smaller roads in New Orleans, it's a big truck. So we got to do some training before it'll go into service, but it's a beautiful truck. So as soon as we get it in service, I'll get permission and we'll bring it over so you guys can see it. So, thank you.
Did you have a good time? Oh, yeah, that's right. You guys seen Denver's night lights. So, alrighty, thank you. Moving on, we have Public Works Resolution, a resolution of the City Council authorizing the mayor to execute an independent contractor service contract with True North Contracting. Matt, must be yours.
Good evening. So what this is in relation to is a paving project at the cemetery in Laurel. It's one of those things we've talked about for 20-some years again. The idea is to start with this, and for lack of a better term, it's maybe a block long. If you go into the second entrance of the cemetery and look to the right, it'll be those first 2 sections that are paved on one road. The idea with this is to start this year and hopefully continue yearly, doing a little bit at a time till we can get that back into condition. The cemetery board is in favor of this, and the price seemed favorable. It includes an overlay, filling potholes before the overlay. So it should be a nice product when it's done.
Why don't you stay right there? Next is a resolution. Councilmember Mize, sorry. Duck
Thank
my
you.
head.
Thank you, no worries. So does that come out of like cemetery budget or does that come out of street maintenance budget?
So that would be the cemetery budget. It's, I believe, perpetual fund is what I've been told for the cemetery. And we do have the money available to do that.
Sorry about that. Any other questions? Okay, now we have another Public Works resolution, a resolution of the city council accepting the bid and authorizing the mayor to execute all contract and related documents for the completion of the South Side paving project by Knife River of Billings.
Okay, so this is a very exciting project and it's fairly unusual the way we went about this. It's not by any means a complete rebuild of the streets. Essentially, it's an overlay on the existing gravel roads. But for what we get for the money is probably 10 times more than if we were to try and do it with water lines, sewer lines, curb, gutter, sidewalk, everything that we all know needs to be done. But the idea of this is to get the roads paved. It'll look nice. The dust control it's terrible down there as far as dust. It'd be a very, very nice thing for the residents of that area. What it includes is all of South Fifth from Graff School, or not Graff, South School, all the way to South First. And then I believe there's either 3 or 4 streets for about a block, starting with First, Maple, Woodland, that are gravel up to Fourth. Those will all be paved as well. And this is curb to curb. It's not going to be the little gravel parking lanes. We did go out for bid on this. We had three bids. 2 of them were just slightly less than 200,000 and one of them was quite a bit north of 300,000. So Knife River was the lowest bid and the lowest qualified contractor. So we would recommend Knife River.
This will finish up the South Fourth project that we had to put on hold a couple of years ago for lack of funds. So this is coming, the financing is there. It's coming out of the gas tax. So we have money enough to do that. So instead of waiting, like Matt said, to dig up sewer, water, curb to curb, we felt, let's just get it taken care of. And if we have a problem, we dig it up, fix it and repatch it like we did down today already on, what was that, West?
Yeah, West and Fourth, we had a water leak and it turns out it goes right back to the project. Something wasn't put together quite right and it's been leaking since day one. Unfortunately, it was out of warranty by about 6 months. So we went ahead and fixed it today. We will be asking for a repavement patch here just shortly, as soon as we get everything ironed out down there.
Any questions on that? Thank you, Matt. Next,
Thank you.
Next, we have finance resolution, a resolution of the city council approving amendments to appropriations and revenues for the city of Laurel's fiscal year 24-25 budget. Clerk Strecker.
The city of Laurel needs to make budget amendments to ensure that the financial plan reflects actuals and expenditures throughout the fiscal year. These adjustments are necessary to account for unexpected changes such as increased costs, emergency spending, or shifts in project priorities. Budget amendments help maintain transparency, fiscal responsibility, and compliance with legal requirements, allowing the city to allocate resources more effectively and meet community needs as they evolve. Exhibit A shows the budget amendments that are going to be reflected in the public hearing that's next week. For those of you that have been here several years, the federal equitable sharing, which is through the police department, we are not allowed to appropriate any funds or revenues to that account until the end of the fiscal year. If they do have a cash balance, but if they spend any money from that, they use their cash balance, and then we have to do a budget amendment to make sure that that budget does not go negative. Otherwise, then we get audit findings for that. So this year, the federal equitable sharing brought in $63,000 and they spent $52,000 of that. Part of that was with what they spent in car, they bought a car and then a couple other things to go on the car is what they used the money for this year. They don't spend a lot out of that account, so a lot of times they have way more revenue than they ever do of expenditures. I do have two general fund, not because our general fund went negative, but two things in the general fund that I wanted to make sure that was noted in there. So the ambulance, they increased their appropriations to $1,500 or from $1,500 to $1,766 due to the ambulance staff wanted more T-shirts, but they insisted that the employees wanted to pay the city back for the increased amount of T-shirts. So we, the cost was $266. So we received the revenue from each one of the employees at the ambulance department to pay for their own T-shirts that they wanted. If we would not have done this, that would have made their line item only go negative. And so this keeps that line item from going negative on their uniforms. The other one is the fire department. The fire department's original appropriation was $55,000, which was for their clothing allowance. Every year they put in for a DNRC grant. And because the previous year, they only received $3,000 from that DNRC grant. And then this year they received $12,500 for the DNRC grant. So we increased their appropriation to allow them to use the reimbursable grant to spend on wildland gear is what they purchased this year. So we just increased those revenues by $9,500 because they already had $3,000 in there and then increased their spending $12,500. The other ones, the transit grant, the reason for this budget amendment is we had the unexpected expenditure for the local share payment for the purchase of the transit van, which was from 2020. The overage was funded by the cash cash reserve of the transit fund. So there was nothing that made that go negative. We just needed to make sure we could pay for the second bus that doesn't have any labels on it yet, which we did not know about when we did the budget last year. The employer contribution to PERS did go negative due to the unanticipated overtime for the ambulance department. And so whenever there's a change in wages, those funded by the PERS cause the actual 2370 PERS contributions to go negative. So we needed to do a budget amendment to raise those to keep those from being an audit finding. And the airport authority, the original appropriation was $31,609, came in with taxes at $32,021, which is an increase of $412. So that was just increasing the appropriation so that when the city reimburses the airport authority for the taxes we brought in, we have the ability to write the check without making that go negative. The other one is the revenues for the fire disability. The revenues for the fire disability were greater than anticipated. So there would be more transfers into the Fire Relief Association, and that's due to every year the fire disability treasurer, I believe, fills out the information and reports that to the state. And then the state in turn turns around and gives us the money on top of what the mills that the city of Laurel allows the fire disability to have. So for the 2 previous years, we did not get money from the state. If that report is not sent in, then the state doesn't send us money. So this year we weren't sure, so we just appropriated for what the mills were, and then that increased their disability payment. Other than that, that's all that came, that would have been needing anything from the 24-25 budget. So as we move into the 25-26 in the next couple of weeks.
That was a lot. Any questions? Thank you. Moving on, we have a planning resolution, a resolution of the city council authorizing the mayor to execute task order number 5 and all related documents for the Barnhart Ditch improvements by and between the city of Laurel and Triple Tree Engineering, Inc.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Before you have a task order for Triple Tree Engineering. This is a Laurel Urban Renewal project. It was requested by local business owners probably 5 years ago. It's been talked about for over the last 5 years as they developed along South Washington and Bernhardt Road, starting with a strip mall and St. V's Walking Clinic, or I guess Intermountain Health Walking Clinic. They're concerned about the ditches that are going along there and then how people may be walking back and forth to Walmart with an active irrigation ditch there. So they worked with CHS Refinery over the last 2 years to get permission to cover that ditch. And CHS Refinery has signed an agreement that they will not stand in opposition to do that, to cover those ditches. Under state statutes, the city of Laurel is restricted from messing with irrigation ditches or impeding irrigation ditches unless you have the permission from the landowner or the irrigator, or if the city council finds it as a nuisance, and then the city would have to pay for that. If we found that as a nuisance inside the city limits, we'd have to pay for that anyway. So with that, the business owners approached the Lura Committee. It was a recommendation out of there. I worked with the engineering firm to come up with a scope. So you'll see an exhibit where it's going from 1 ditch to 2 ditches, and then it's going to pass underneath the interstate and have irrigation to the refinery property south of the interstate. The ditch starts all the way up at the big ditch, these irrigation ditches, and there's a couple locations, one north of the high school up on, I think, West 12th Street up in that area. And then there's another one over on Alder Avenue, Headgate, and they both run down Alder Avenue underneath railroad tracks and pop out at Bernhardt Road and then go down that. So if you ever see those ditches down there, it'd be nice to cover those ditches. And then it's not in the scope of this as designed, but I'd like to have them think about one of the specifications is to do some kind of landscaping over the top of it, like a low maintenance weed barrier and limestone or some kind of stone so that it's doesn't have to be irrigated and it makes it look nicer down there. So right now, if you go down there, there's grass about 3.5 feet tall all along that strip. The hope was if we get the ditch covered that it would open up opportunities for those property owners then to subdivide and maybe have access over on Bernhardt Road. And tonight I had the city attorney review a plat that actually does that for the dog groomer down there. She's trying to split the lot as a family transfer, and that'll open up maybe more development where they can access this by having this ditch dealt with. So that's the long and short of what the project is, and we'll have design done here. If you approve it, the design would be done, and we'd like to go to bid on it this fall and get it completed this fall.
Councilmember Mize.
Thank you. Does this work in conjunction with or get in the way at all of what Lura's trying to do down there with streetlights and all of their plannings that they've come and talked about starting?
No, this is in conjunction with that. They want to do the whole project at once, but this ditch has to be done in the winter because they're irrigating. And so they thought we'd move this one forward to get it done this winter with the delay of downtown. So Triple Tree is working on downtown, and we're still working on getting letters back from the property owners about doing street lights down there. We'd have to expand the lighting district in order to do that, in order to pay for the maintenance. So we're still talking about the lighting district. There also is a talk about trying to do a path to Walmart on the south side and try to how to fund that and how to complete that too.
So this won't get in their way, or we wouldn't have to redig this back up when we start installing lights or anything like that?
Nope.
Other questions? CO Markey Guard, why don't you just read that next one too?
This is a resolution of the city council approving a final annexation of property legally described as the amended plat of lots 1 and 2 of Nutting Brothers subdivision, second filing, lots 1A, adjacent to the city of Laurel, as an addition to the city of Laurel, Yellowstone County, Montana, with concurrent approval of zoning designation upon the annexation of the property. This is the Mogan School property. I talked to Matt. They paved last week. They're meeting their obligations that they said they would do for the city. They've installed sidewalk down the side of it. They just recently paved. They're working on putting up some stop signs, but in order to get the ability for SROs to be working within that school, we have the jurisdiction of inside the city limits. We'd like to do the final annexation so that our SRO officers are able to go into that school if called upon by the school district for security purposes or to talk about threats or whatever they have. So we'd like to get it annexed so that they can actually have jurisdiction. And so that's what's pushing this a little bit further. School's 3 weeks away. And so we'd like to get this done on this cycle. As far as I know, they did also do a ditch covering. Part of their project, a lot of the water was leaching through the road bed and into their property, and they did cover that ditch as well. There's still some open ditches in the area, but hopefully maybe we can, if we've got the refinery going this far, maybe in the future we can find some funds to help cover the rest of the ditches up in that area. So we're just asking the council to approve the final annexation of the Mogan School property.
Questions? Councilmember Canopy.
Yeah, up on the corner then of Alder and East Maryland, the four-way stop, is that gonna be in before the schools?
Yes.
It is. Thank you.
Matt's working on that with the maintenance director of the Laurel School District. So
They're working hard on it. They were hoping for this week.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Markeyguard. Council issues. I've been in talks with local business owners along First here and with staff. And we'd like to move forward with diagonal parking here in the near future. We were preparing to go with Laura on it to do it, but Mr. Markeyguard, of course, brought up that we're putting a new a new crosswalk here for the the nursery thing over here, which would throw everything out of whack anyways. So we're looking at getting Triple Tree to do a parking assessment and see what would be involved. I talked to a few people with Laura and they're good with it. To see if we can get diagonal parking from like old Doc Wheeler's place all the way down to just the end of the fab. And possibly, did you say that we're allowed to do First Avenue? See if First Avenue works out and, maybe this one. But that's my thoughts. I just thought I'd bring it and see what you all thought about it. Councilmember Mize?
Thank you. I have two quick questions. I thought we did a parking assessment a couple years ago. That would still be mostly current and up to date. And I thought we were told we couldn't do angle parking because of the routes for the fire truck, but the firemen are gone, so.
Yeah, I don't think we did a diagonal assessment, did we? We just did an all around.
yeah, that was the entire, I think from 4th or 5th, all the way across down to, I think, Alder. And that assessment was there's plenty of parking on Main Street. And the issues are with the apartment anywhere there's an apartment building. So Montana, if you go over there at night, it's packed. If you go over here on 3rd, it was packed. But that was, what spurred that, it was the property owner went out and sprayed the street. So that's when the fire department, so yeah, that street wasn't what the mayor is talking about tonight. That was where the fire department routes out that way. And they didn't want to have that parking like that. This is West First, East and West First Street. So if you haven't been here a lot in the mornings, if you drive by here about 9 o'clock, it's packed out front from court. They're having a lot of tickets written now. And court's in full session. In between that and motor of the vehicle, they both start at 9 a.m. And the parking is pretty bad out here. With the crosswalk, we can use the parking lot a lot more getting over to City Hall. But just yesterday, I almost saw a lady get creamed out front. She was looking at her paperwork coming out of the motor vehicle and she stepped out in front and a vehicle was coming through that stop sign and If she didn't look up at the last second, she would have been smacked. So the issue, the idea was to, when we do the downtown project, we're gonna have to do some striping anyway. And I talked to the mayor about it, if we can work that into that project, because we're gonna be paying a contractor to come in and stripe anyway, that would be a great time to do some diagonal parking if the council would like to see that. LMC indicates that the mayor and the council direct the police chief to assign parking in the city limits. You're supposed to park with your right-hand tires to the curb within 18 inches or you'll get a ticket. Over the years, we've done diagonal parking. I think it was back in 2003 or 4, they did it on Montana and Colorado, and the council approved that. And then we went in on this project and we striped it after we tore up the street and did water lines. I think that was in 05 when I first started here. They did all that. And so they striped it diagonal. With the East Downtown project, we did perpendicular parking as part of the project and part of the design that the council then approved when it went to bid. And we did that part going through projects. This would be a first time project where we go back to like 2003 where the council thinks it's a good idea. And we added it to the task order with Triple Tree to amend that task order to look at striping it a little bit more. And so I talked to the mayor and says, well, let's see how the council feels. If the council feels it's a worthwhile thing, we'll get an endeavor with Triple Tree to add a little bit more striping and kind of a design to do that. I think it wouldn't hurt to actually see what the cost is going to be to do that, or a cost estimate to see what striping it is. And then there's lots of painting to do in that TIF district. South 4th Street, I think it's been 3 or 4 years. The paint is starting to wear off down there. So if we're actually going to do, painting, we should probably hit the entire TIF district where we need it. And I don't want to be one of those. If you come off the interstate, you'll see 2 straight arrows, I think, coming off the interstate. And they sprayed over it black once, but it wore off and now there's white showing again. So it's causing some confusion coming off there, and we'll have to call the state on that. But to update this painting, these new cars have lane technology. Keep your car going straight. I drove one to California and it will keep you in the lanes, but it relies on that paint for the cameras to read that paint. And if you don't have good striping, we're gonna have these cars that are not able to self-drive. So anyway, we'd like to, if we're gonna look at striping, I advise the mayor, let's just look at the entire TIF district and see what the paint needs are. And then we can work with the Triple Tree to come up with a design. And some of that, there is no design, it's just cleaning the street and then respraying it. In the downtown where you redo the parking and do the diagonal. We could talk about back end, front end. I'm not a huge fan of back end, but I'm also not a huge fan of diagonal, especially in downtown Billings. But I was just down there this afternoon and they wiped out the problem area I have at the courthouse. And now it's all perpendicular parking again because they went to 2-way streets. So that got removed. Yeah. So anyway, traffic, I drove it today and it's a whole new system of looking out for people now. So I was down there and I'm not too sure that I didn't get a nice warm gesture from somebody when I was leaving downtown, but.
Council President Sparks.
Thanks. So I guess I have 2 questions regarding this and 1 comment. Don't go with backup diagonal parking. It's a nightmare. Just from experience in downtown Billings. So are they gonna make sure that there's enough room? Cause I know that the fire trucks come out this way too. So they'll make sure that there's enough room. It's not gonna impede or anything. We just heard that the new fire truck is bigger. Right? And then my second question is, will we also be looking at ADA parking along here then too?
Yeah, so anytime you start designating parking, we are required under the American Disability Act to provide percentage of the parking spaces that you would do that. So that would be where if you did a block of diagonal parking, one has to be ADA and it has to be van accessible if you only have one. If you have 2 handicap parking, only one has to be ADA, which takes out an entire, or van accessible, which takes out an entire parking stall because you have to do the striping. And so essentially you're creating 2 parking spots for that van accessibles. So the parking, you might gain a little bit. It's parking, you know, a couple spaces per block, but you'll probably see a lot of ADA parking within that block. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because out front here, the ADA parking for City Hall is across the street, and we actually have a crosswalk that they have to walk all the way down and then around. And this one's really kind of a malfunction junction, and there isn't really any crosswalk there. Nobody does that. They park in the ADA and then they just come across from the alleys and they come in here. So hopefully with that tree that's even the concrete up over across the street, that'll probably be removed because that's in the way. It's dying anyway. And we'll bring in a parking stall over there from that parking lot, but we might be able to get away with having ADA parking out front in City Hall. And that would be a blessing because then they could go up that ramp that we're going to create and come into this building. And then we would really be ADA accessible. So is that the only question you had, or? Oh, fire truck. We would definitely want to get the EMS services, the police and the fire buy off on whatever we do. So have them get a look at it. So.
Councilmember McKay.
Thank you. So this kind of piggybacks off of that conversation, but it's probably been about a year and a half ago where the business owner on Pennsylvania, Red Rooster, talked to me about angled parking over there. And I did follow up with Brian and Chief Langvey at the time. And a big part was like, okay, now you've got to do the ADA. So you've got the striping, you've got the handicap spots, and then you get the diagonal parking. And if you count how many diagonal parking there is now over by the Palace, and then you go look at a street like Pennsylvania, there wasn't that much benefit in that situation. So, and I would think too, when they do a study of this street, I really don't think parking like in front of the movie or the First on First is wise. And I'd wonder if it will become actual ability to continue to park there with the way our four-way stop is. So I think there would be a potential to lose parking. I'm not an engineer, I don't know. So I think that's a possibility. One thing I think might be worth looking into is just painting the spots. So they did that in downtown Billings for a while where the parallel spots were parked. So you couldn't just like park in the middle of the curb. There were those spots, and that may actually give the amount of parking that a curb can actually withstand as opposed to the diagonal. I don't know how much more parking diagonal would honestly give, because when I counted how many were over there on Montana and I went over and looked at Pennsylvania, it would probably be a wash, except for then having handicap parking, which is great. I mean, you definitely need some more access over here for sure, but just things that I noticed. And in that conversation with Ryan and Stan too, that was one of the concerns they had.
That is our concern too, but I told the business owner that I would bring it up, and
I agree. I think something should happen with parking. It's been a conversation for a very long time, and just even talking about it, I appreciate. And showing the goodwill of looking into it, I think is important. If we can't make it work for whatever reason, the space is what it is, but I think it's good that we're talking about it.
Council Member Sparks.
Just to add on to that, so I think some of it is a perception, right? Diagonal parking, there's a perception that there's more available because you're parking at an angle instead of back to back. So you might not gain anything, but people feel like you have.
Well, and I believe Kurt said, you know, you get toward the turns, you're gonna lose more with diagonal because you have to give more space on the turns. So, but it's something that I thought I would put out there to see if we wanted to have Triple Tree look at it, and maybe and they might tell us the same thing. You're not gonna gain anything. So, but we have some business owners that are concerned with parking here on First. So I thought I would bring that up, and we can talk about it. Nothing will get done until next spring, right?
Yeah.
So, just thought I'd bring that up now. So maybe we can talk about it again later on. So any other items? Yes, sir.
Ask the Public Works Director to come forward with me, but. As the council members and the mayor know, we lost a city employee. Passed away from an illness last week. And I just wanted to publicly state that this gentleman meant a lot to the employees at City Hall, employees at the Public Works Department, and I would like everyone to be able to sign a condolence card up at the front table. And just want to give you a little background on this gentleman. He was hired a few years ago. I don't think he really called in sick much at all until he was really ill. And he still showed up for work, and he worked his butt off doing what he could. And I think he worked up until about 6 weeks ago. And so the gentleman's name is Troy Clifton. And I would ask that the council and the mayor consider to keep his family in their thoughts as this family is grieving their brother and their brother-in-law, their son. So it's an unfortunate thing. We've lost 2 city employees this year to accident and illness. And I don't think that has ever happened in the 21 years I've been here. So it's not one of those things that I wanted to have on the agenda, but I also wanted to be able to recognize that Troy did make an impact on our Public Works Department. And if you never met him, he was up the container site a lot when he first started here. Never really had a bad thing to ever say about that gentleman. So I would just ask the council and the mayor again to keep that family in their thoughts. Thank you. Matt, would you like to?
Yeah, so I will agree with everything that Kurt brought up. And one thing that was really interesting about this is when Troy ran out of sick time, all the other employees in the city thought enough of the man to donate sick time. So he was able to receive full pay until the end. So he was very well thought of.
Attendance at the upcoming council meeting? Any announcements? Helps them memorize.
We have a Park and Tree Board meeting this week, 5:30? Okay.
Yes.
Just do what she said. There is a park board meeting, Thursday evening in this chamber at 6 o'clock. 5:30. 5:30. Thank you.
Is that it? Nothing else? We're dismissed. Adjourn.